sense of the world. To make sense of the world. World peace through individual strength. Feeling so good from the inside out. Better than your morning would feel without. My name is Herbie. This is another episode of How Go On. How art thou doing today, wherever you are, whenever thou art? Are we allowing these words to go in one ear and out the other? Holding on to these words as always, holding on to the meaning as always instead of the words, specifically in this simulation of ours, in which we all live in which we die every 5 minutes, but that timer is reset with every breath you take. We invite you to hold our controller properly today by pretending that there is a candle in front of your lips if you're trying to not put out. Just a lit candle, just flickering ever so softly in front of your lips. And you're not thinking about breathing in or exhaling necessarily, but simply that there is a lit candle just flickering in front of your mouth, in front of your lips. And you have yourself in your awareness the intention of trying to not put this candle out. Wherever you are, whether you are taking a shower right now, whether you are working on your mortgage payment, whether you are working on your tax refund. Did you get your tax refund? A refund! Whether you are here watching live, good morning. Or whether you are out there in the future in the VOD somewhere, a video on demand, or somewhere out there on a YouTube channel. Wherever you are, whenever thou art. Whether you are sitting around sweating in the summer heat, or whether you are around sitting and freezing in the snow. I hope you know just where to go. Here's a sweater. I know it's getting cold. How are you doing? How are you doing? Are you ready to go? Let's go. Pal, go on, guys. Welcome back to the Best Feeling Podcast. All about targeting pain points and remedying pain to achieve most authentic freedom in our lives, both physically, mentally, and spiritually. We're always going to allow all of these words go in one ear and out the other this morning, as we allow them to simply wash over our body and we observe how these words might affect our body. If they do, great. If they don't, we hope you'll stick around until it does, or just hang out and have a laugh or two. Have a laugh or two. That's the attitude. Today is November 9th, Wednesday, Warfare Wednesday on November 9th, 2022. Today's topic is that government. On a Warfare Wednesday, on every day on Go On, where we're feeling so good from the inside out, better than your morning would feel without. Here on Go On, we're always discussing the relationship between the self and other concepts. Specifically on Warfare Wednesday, we visit the relationship between ourselves and the outside world. Along the way, always using some good old body magic tricks. Just a few body magic tricks. Few body magic tricks to help us feel so integrated in the moment, as we are always allowing all these words to go in one ear and out the other. Today. How are you doing this morning? We're talking about how the government is the toxic ex. do we mean toxic X? Toxic X. Like that toxic X that asks you to not believe your senses. Don't believe your lying eyes. That toxic X that's like, we want to make no sense of the world using no senses. That's the toxic X. Getting you to wear masks even after confirming that they don't work. Forcing you to get the jab despite shady evidence of its safety. Now, maybe not all, as JLP would say. Maybe not all government, but in the current state of affairs right now, there's the wave that we are experiencing in this strange culture event, this culture war that's been happening in the last few years. It's like that toxic ex that keeps checking up on you, that keeps checking to see if you believe them and trying to convince you that they did not do wrong, almost to a fault, right? Or that toxic ex that like wants evidence of exactly where you're going and says they don't have trust issues while they do it. That toxic ex that's like, I need you to text me at all times. I need you to send me pictures at all times that you are wearing this mask. And if anyone doubts you, you must tell them that I am in charge. I am in charge. I mean, they've given the reason to give. They're constantly feeding us reasons to give panic in order to control, appealing overly so to the emotions. Emotional blackmail being propagated in unison, right? Like by the media and the government together. It's like they're just like in cahoots right now. You know? Asking for forgiveness without even bearing blame yet, as is coming up with this election. Happy election day. November 8th. Did you vote? Yesterday, did you vote if you're in America? America. How often do we see the zeitgeist? And we're going to get to talking about why these politics matter to the body. They say that you can't have opinions. Nonsense. Check out the episode about opinions. You can have opinions about anything, dog. Anything at all. They like to pretend that our lives exist in a vacuum, but we don't exist in a vacuum. We are affected by each other and each other's decisions. They do reinforce or can also degrade certain worldviews that function together. Depending on how people behave, you're allowed to have opinions because people are allowed to make observations about certain value systems. And to be able to find good and bad, you're helping yourself by observing the world. It's like the best way to level up. Get out of here. Saying that you or someone else is doing what they themselves are trying to hide. I got like this mohawk thing and it's like tripping me out. So, there, I changed it to like I don't know. I look like a bird. If you put like headphones on a bird. I mean, just saying stuff like we're not, like just saying things like we're not trying to extend lockdowns, but here's why we have to, and then give all these emotional excuses as to why they need to extend lockdowns, none of which they claim have to do with affecting an entire election cycle. Wild. 2 years ago? Wild, right? What the heck? Get out of here. There's just so much clear foul play. It's like this is why I say it, they're like that freaking toxic ex that just can't admit that they were wrong about it. So they keep ramping it up and like, oh, it's actually way worse than we thought, even though it's clear that it was getting better or that it was never really that bad. Like, oh, I was totally wrong, or I was totally right, they say. I was totally right to overreact. I mean, that's the biggest thing at the end of the day, is that we're even valuing emotionalism at all. I mean, it's going to happen throughout life. It's going to be something that humans must overcome forever, right? Like always in every new generation, they have to find their own pathway because each individual's got to do it themselves to like overcome this emotionalism and stuff. But you get into any kind of validation of this emotion, like, oh, they're more emotional, so therefore their information that they're spreading is more true or more important, is, I mean, pretty much the opposite approach of what you want, right? To see truth and to see fact would be to be calm about it because you're observing. As when you add more emotion, especially to ideas as opposed to like building a chair, when you add I mean, even a chair, right? If you're too emotional, you're going to break the chair as you build it or something, right? Like, but especially with these large concepts, the more frantic you are, the less you want to trust these decisions. The more you appeal to what is emotional in the immediate moment, the less it's appealing to a larger portion of people. And the larger portion of people that you're going to want to reach, the more dispassionate your solution's going to have to be, just because it must consider as many. It must always lean towards it must always err towards like safety. So we always want to go with variables that are concrete. And so the magicians behind the media, the magicians behind the propaganda really have nothing to go on except this emotionalism. But I mean, we understand it, right? Like the emotionalism is like, it's totally like a physical thing. Everything's got like a physical aspect to it, right? Like you can't feel better, so you're gonna have to push it out somehow. Depression epidemic, porn addiction epidemic, opioid epidemic, all the same thing. So we'll be talking a little bit more about how this this current situation in the world, the government, especially here in the United States right now, is what we can talk about right now. Shout outs to anybody in the United States watching here. Shout out to anyone not in the United States. We'll be right back after this short break to continue describing this moment, as observing as we know even about the body sometimes is all that's required. So let's observe that there was a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. My name is Herbie. This is Pal Go On, and we'll be right back after this short break.
tried all the vitamins and gummies that claim they're going to be boosting your mental capabilities, your physical performance, your behaviors in life? Tried them and then felt motivated yet slightly confused and cautious? I mean, are the effects even real or are they a placebo? Are you achieving what you think you are achieving, or is it imagination? Do you have all this energy now, or is that imagination too? Be done with placebos. Be done with uncertainty. Isn't it so draining to be uncertain? You can't even begin to gain confidence in what you're doing. How about some actionable, specific advice instead? Take this gummy, feel the front of your shins. Bam! That one's free. Take Padawan with you wherever you go, whenever you go, and feel so good from the inside out.
Feeling so good from the inside out, better than your morning would feel without. World peace, inner and outer world peace through individual strength. Your only no-nonsense podcast. The best feeling podcast and the best feeling network. My name is Herbie. Welcome back to Padawan. This is November 8th, 2022. It is a Wednesday, which means on Padawan it is a Warfare Wednesday, where we discuss the relationship between ourselves and the world. As we're always discussing our relationship with ourselves, as we are in this simulation we share together, where we are all... where you die every 5 minutes, but that timer is reset with a breath. In this simulation of ours, we invite you to hold your controller properly with us today by pretending that there is a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. Again, how do we hold this controller properly in this simulation in which we die every 5 minutes, but that timer is reset with a breath? How do we hold our controller properly? By pretending that there is a lit candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. It's just flickering there. A lit candle, like a birthday candle, in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. And you're not thinking about inhaling, and you're not thinking about exhaling necessarily. But simply that there is a lit candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. And how does that feel for you? Wherever you are, whenever thou art. Whether you are chilling in a shopping cart, wherever you are, whenever thou art. Whether we are in the background right now, whether we are in the foreground. That was convenient. Whether you are outside in the park, maybe chilling after dark. Whether you are alone or whether you're with your parents. Whether you are with some pets like a cat or a parrot. Wherever you are, whenever thou art. We invite you to pretend that there's a candle. Just a lit candle. In front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. You're trying to not put out. might notice how far forward of the body that feels, along with the fact that the tip of your tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. Like you might notice right here on the screen, right here behind me. The tip of your tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. And how might that feel for you? No matter what you say, no matter how your mouth is formed, whether your mouth is open, or whether it's closed, the tip of your tongue always wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. And how does that feel for you? We invite you today, as we are holding our controller properly, more properly, and more properly in 3D today. And during the week, here on Padawan. We do invite you to shift your awareness to using your hearing awareness to listen to the front of your shins as if they were the speakers of the world of sounds around you. They're all being projected as you hear them. They're all being projected from the front of your shins as if they were the speakers. Like they were tuning forks of all the sounds around you, the front of your shins, as you listen to them. And how might that feel for you as we remember that the weight-bearing portion of the spine is indeed the front. That nice, impressively large portion of your spine, which exists in the front of the spine, which is the center of your body. When you think about it, as the rib cage will kind of go forward and fill the rest of the forward part. How are you doing today? How was your little break, and how are you coming back, easing in? Whether you were easing in from the bathroom, maybe you were getting a drink somewhere, maybe you're returning to work right now, maybe you have messy hair. Wherever you are, whenever thou art, welcome back to this Warfare Wednesday, where we will be discussing just a relationship with us versus the world. And today's topic is about how the government has been acting like a nasty, wasty, toxic ex-boyfriend or girlfriend. So as we were discussing previously before the break, we were saying, I mean, come on, like just looking at the way that the last few years have been handled, right? It's like getting you to try to believe what you know is not true. Like trying to get you to think that what you were seeing in the last few years were not even true. So there's this pattern of like, here, we're gonna mess us up and do whatever we want by emotionally manipulating you. Emotional blackmail, whether it was the black squares of like, hey, you either do this or you're a racist, like emotionally blackmailing people into a situation where where you had some commanding elites decide for everybody what made you a good and bad person from the outside in, like trying to force this kind of like anti-freedom intimidation cloud, which, I mean, once you have intimidation, you can have zero love, right? It's just emotional blackmail. It's just do this or else you will be like emotionally ostracized. We will say that we will make it uncomfortable for you to exist emotionally. And we know how strong emotions are these days right now because we ourselves as a generation were not raised to feel empowered to confront social situations, mostly due to this whole like, I mean, we had a whole giant single motherhood problem, and it's a big problem because like you're sabotaged by the fact that like we're meant to protect women, but at the same time the woman's gonna be has to be the one in charge, and she's doing both roles, and it's like you get this crazy disempowerment epidemic People feeling as though they cannot speak out for themselves. That's the only reason why emotional blackmail will work, right? Is because people right now, we lack this ability to feel better from the inside out on command. So social situations can really mess with our day-to-day, even though we might not feel like we're going to get individually attacked at that moment. We can see a ripple effect of how it affects the rest of our lives, as we aren't able to like focus easily back into life or be unfeathered by the consequences in order to do what we know we want to do. And in this generation, of course, we have more than ever like a giant ego problem, as we see so much that's possible in the world. We see so much more of the distance between what we've done in our lives, our potential, and what is actually possible. So as we get more and more globalized, which I don't even agree with, as we become more globalized, thanks large part due to the internet and its large reaching scope, we are actually becoming more depressed. There's like an inverse relationship exponentially, where the more information, I mean, the internet grows exponentially already. So it's kind of just like a stack. So, I mean, you got the internet, the more that it matures and is able to disseminate information to people, the more we are able to see actually the difference between our potential and what is potential for humans. And so we actually have this inverse relationship of happiness, and the more internet we have, which, I mean, as they say, ignorance is bliss, right? So as we know, these wise sayings are wise because they stand the test of time, and what stands the test of time is truth. So as we become more depressed in this generation, we cannot handle the emotional blackmail. I mean, there's a physical component to all human experience, right? Including emotional blackmail, or including being emotionally blackmailed, including the bad stuff. There's a physical aspect to the happiness as well, right? Like, how do you know you're happy? You have like a physical sensation associated with being happy. It just so happens that happiness fades naturally, whereas negative emotion does not necessarily fade as automatically. So without a proper way to universally for everybody to just calm down and chill on their own, what hope do we have to minimize the effect of emotional blackmail? So it becomes so prolific in media and government today as a political tactic. Emotional blackmail. Well, you're a racist. Well, you're a homophobe. Well, you're a sexist. Well, you're LGBTQ. Well, you're masked. You're vax. You're not masked, non-vaxxed. Like factionings, as the forefathers warned us about. If only the forefathers knew about putting a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. I wonder what that. I mean, they probably were like that all the time, to be honest. That's probably their default. That's probably why, like, society probably got so calm to the point where like they could just like practice this stuff, and then they were just like, dude, we're like phenomenal. What happened? Bada bing, bada boom. Like, oh, probably happened very quickly, with no distractions from the internet and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Speaking of the internet, as we are speaking through it right now, kind of insane when you think about what's going on. You time traveler, you most likely a time traveler, or what if you're one of the ones at the premiere? Good morning. You non-time travelers, or you time travelers. Just think about how amazing it is that you're just watching this video completely made at a different time, and you're watching me move in 3D, and it's like translated in 2D and then translated over the internet. Blah, blah, blah. It's freaking amazing. So with how fast and how insanely prolific information is on the internet right now, what we get is just this huge, massive government being a toxic ex-girlfriend, ex-boyfriend kind of exaggeration that's become real. As now, like, everything is like on the table. The information you can't even trust because it's been broken so many times, and yet we still stay in this relationship. The trust has been broken, and yet you still have to keep trusting them. Like with these elections that we know there's going to be, I mean, every election always will have foul play, but this election's going to have just like tantamount amount. That makes sense. Like unprecedented, as though they keep saying. And I'm likely to believe, at least in volume, just because there's just so much more information that's like available worldwide. Unless this is like Star Wars and it's like a repeating cycle and we've been technological before and we like broke down. I sometimes think about that. But yeah, like not trying to extend the lockdowns, but here's why. And then they're going to explain the reason why they have to extend the lockdowns, even though they say like, we agree we shouldn't lock down because of the economy, but we should lock down because people are in danger. Like, never mind the people's like grandparents dying alone in hospitals because of like a feigned situation, a calculated overreaction, or, you know, an intentionally reckless, negligent overreaction that caused tragedies. I mean, yeah, we have not seen for sure the massive backlash that would come from all of these grandparents, children, I mean adults, men and women, just everyone being locked down forcibly, these businesses that had to close down, the lives that were affected by this, the ripple effect is insane. The ripple effect is insane, man. You think about it. You know what? Like, I go outside. I don't know if anyone else is. I mean, I'm sure everyone at some point is having this experience, but we all question it sometimes, right? I straight up see animals, dogs, mostly when I go outside. So many more dogs. I see so much less like tail wagging, like left and right. Something, I don't know, am I an old fogey that left and right wagging used to mean a happy pet? So what of all these pets that were forced to lay dormant indoors for like 2 years? And how much damage has been done by restless dogs? Dogs that were not socialized, so now must cost more because you have to leave them at pet sitters, or you have to make up time getting them trained. Pet visits to the vet are not cheap. Pet insurance is crazy. Unsocialized dogs are more often going to be biting other dogs or biting humans. And those are just the dogs that got restless leg syndrome, but throughout the whole body. The consequences of human beings is likely to be more pronounced. Not to say we won't be fine, but if we would just observe it this time, the government seems like it's lost its mind. Isn't that such an obvious rhyme? Bro, I wasn't expecting that one. This government is acting like such a toxic boyfriend and toxic girlfriend. Like, here, sign this pad saying that you are afraid of COVID still. Here, this video talks about COVID. we're going to mark it as disinformation because it talks about how if a mask can't stop a fart, it's not going to stop a disease, not an airborne disease that's smaller than the cotton that is weaved. So silly indeed. So silly indeed. So why do we look at like what they're doing? Like, how come we're not looking at like specific examples of like, oh, the government shut down this business, or this business had something to say about it, or this specific person was wrong this way by the government's lies? It's like, oh, people gained some money from their epidemic check, their stay home check. Oh, that's nice. Some people got that, but why are we looking at the spirit, like the emotional blackmail part? Them asking for forgiveness for the lockdowns already instead of saying someone was wrong about the decision to lock down? Why are we already on this? Why are we already on this? There were wrong decisions on both sides, and it's it. Why are we on that side of the fence already? And not who's responsible for this? So that, like, recognizing that the weight of the body on the front of the spine, or similar to us acknowledging that the weight of the body should be delivered to the front of the spine, the weight-bearing portion of the spine. So we're going to allow ourselves to observe our sense of self, to observe if our body is allowing itself to distribute its weight down the front of the spine, the weight-bearing portion of the spine. Are we seeing order to the body as we should see order in similar way of saying, okay, we see this person who is neglecting the weight that's being placed on them, and they're not the one who should be handling the weight. So that person who was handling the weight should not be the one handling the weight. And that's how we balance the body again. To look at the world and to name, not blame, as we do with the same in the body, right? As we say, look, is there any reason to blame anyone for or anything? To imagine that the weight did not distribute into these two sit bones that you see behind me, but rather if we thought that our bodies were like stumps where just kind of like we sit here where my hand is, like we kind of just sit like where the base of the spine meets its points where it splits into two. Did we think to sit up there, or did we think to extend it all the way down here like the truth? What good is there in hating or blaming that misconception? As in trying to attach an emotional aspect to it of guilt of who should be made to feel uncomfortable for this misleading. So how helpful is it to blame versus how helpful is it to just simply name, as you'll see in the No More Mr. Nice Guy book as well. Not just in metaphysical relationship life problems, but also in regards to the body and our ability to improve our clarity of sense of self. In order to improve our clarity of sense of self, to feel, for example, the weight of our body being distributed across the weight-bearing portion of the spine, which is the front, and then split into the sit bones of the pelvic bone, as our legs are free to float, as we don't sit on our legs. In gathering a more clear perception of that sense of self, of how our weight is being delivered, how useful is it to blame? How useful is it to be upset and uncalm about our inability to feel these truths, either now in the present or in the past, versus how useful is it to just name it? To simply get on an objective truth for objective awareness. To get on the same objective plane as the objective awareness desires to feel an objective truth about the weight delivering into our body, to bring order to the body, to feel weightless in the body, to allow the proper structures of the body to handle the weight of the body, the proper structures, and allow the proper structures to do their job so that the rest of the body can feel weightless as is designed by the form, shape, and function of the body itself. What a perfect machine. What a beautiful machine. We'll be right back after this short break. Talk a little bit more about why we should be looking at the spirit, as usual, of what's been going down in the government with all these lies. Lies. We'll be right back. Grandpa, go on.
We have a recommended book reading list. If you feel like you have a hard time understanding yourself at this stage in your life, check out No More Mr. Nice Guy by Robert A. Glover. It's an aggressive title, but a very meaningful book when it comes to understanding the self, both men and women, masculinity and femininity. So you'll see it first in yourself, then throughout the world, so it brings peace through understanding. Do you suffer from a mental illness that you want to actually do something about? Or do you just want to be able to change your patterns and behaviors in life? Check out that book with the girl with holding her hand up. It's an amazing book. The Body's Map of Consciousness, Volume 1, Movement, by Lansing, Barrett, Gresham, and Julie J. Nichols. Do you have body or neck aches throughout the day or throughout the night? And gone to chiropractors and just been frustrated with not being able to get a permanent fix? Check out the purple book, The Structures of Movement and Breathing, by Conable, and Anatomy of the Voice by Theodore Dimon for a more detailed look. Compare that book on the left and take charge in getting your relief back. All these books are highly recommended and pretty short and just freaking phenomenal books. Beyond impressive, incredible, ridiculous, awesome, stupendous, prodigious.
Come on, come on, come on, come on. Welcome back. Welcome back from your break. Hope it was really good. Hope you're doing well out there, wherever you are, whenever thou art. Welcome back to the Best Feeling Podcast. It's kind of a long kind of conversation just then. But welcome back. I hope that you've been feeling great. I hope you've been able to feel the weight of the body delivered down the front of your shins. I hope you've been able to feel that the weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front, as you will see displayed behind me here, as your weight is delivered, boom, into these two sit bones right there. You do not sit on your legs. In fact, they are free to float. We are all floating down here. Allow those legs to float, whether you are sitting or whether you're even standing. Know that you do not stand when you think about it in that way. The lower half of your body is separate from the top half of your body, separate at these hip joints right here. Bam! Hope you're feeling well. Here on the Best Feeling Podcast, also the your only no nonsense podcast, where we are using our sense of the world to make sense of the world. As they say right now, because we are talking about today on this Warfare Wednesday, when we're discussing the relationship between ourselves and the world out there. We've been discussing how the government's been acting like a toxic ex-girlfriend or a toxic ex-boyfriend. The one that's always keeping tabs, even though they're the ones who are constantly breaking your trust, constantly deferring more of that weight onto you, although the history stands with them. Using emotion to get you riled up in order to get you to make sudden changes in the way that you show your affection for them. Doing their best to control the relationship like that with manipulation. By saying those last few years didn't happen. We did not totally just overreact suspiciously. We did not just choose tyranny over frickin' over allowing more information to come out. Trying to say, oh, we weren't wrong about everything. We're just getting more information now. We didn't ignore all the evidence. We're just seeing the evidence trickle in now. Not so much even what was said. Like, oh, this is good or bad because they either chose to isolate or they did not choose to isolate. It's not even specifically what they chose to do. Whether to isolate, not to isolate, whether to mask or not to mask, whether they supported vax or not vax. Here on the Best Feeling Podcast, that's facts. It's not even the specific choices and positions they took, but rather their willingness to lie about it or to switch positions based on who they're pandering to. And that's what we gotta look for, are the spirits of what's going on, as in like the spirit of valuing each other well enough to like not lie, or the spirit of like it's okay to lie all the time. Totally different spirits, although sometimes they might sound like they're on your side because they support the vaxxing, or maybe they don't support vaxxing and you don't support vaxxing too, or maybe you supported the school shutdowns and they did too. Not even so much the positions, but their willingness to flip-flop in anybody is going to be the spirit you want to look at. But why do we want to look at spirits? Using our sense of the world to make sense of the world. Why do we look at spirits as in like these willingness to flip-flop, or these willingness to hide truths and to not think that it's an issue to hide truths? Is that judging, Herbie? Or is it revealing their worldview on humanity? What is the truth worth? What does the truth mean? What kind of value does truth bring? As in like, what kind of effects of the world are can we agree that are effects that create what we consider to be good, like discourse that's meaningful, that actually affects people's lives in positive ways, conversations that actually build people's lives instead of tearing them down by separating them from people's freedom to choose or act or whatever, or to avoid unnecessary suffering. We look at spirits, not just individual choices of things that are being not specific positions that are being taken, but rather spirits, like the willingness to lie, willingness to lie or withhold the truth, or to flip-flop on positions just based on whether or not they're trying to pander to a certain group. The willingness to do so being so much more important, as it reveals a worldview on what they view humans as, whether they view them as all the same, as all being good, or receiving better good things by being exposed to more truth, or should some truth be disseminated to certain people only, and others to have a distorted version of the truth. What is seen as a value? What is seen as something that generates opportunities for what we know about the human spirit to thrive on? Is the value that they see, is the value that you see in the world money? Is it health? Is it physical endurance? In what you believe to be good for human beings, what do you think helps that goal? What do you think the goal of human beings is? As it becomes so hard to ask these questions, it becomes so easy to see how people view it based on whether or not they're willing to lie en masse, or whether or not they're willing to hold a position even though it's emotionally uncomfortable sometimes, or perhaps politically inconvenient. Why do we talk about spirits as opposed to specific events or specific positions that they take? But why do we look at whether or not they're flip-flopping? Sometimes they might disagree with you, but they might be a stronger candidate in the long run in your mind, in your heart, because at least they didn't flip-flop. Why do we look at that? At their ability to flip-flop or their ability to tell lies? Because doesn't it reveal how they feel about human beings, whether or not they see us all as the same, or whether or not they see themselves as part of the entire order of everybody, as seeing all humans equally? Because as we know, if you don't see everyone equally, then this incentive or this belief that there should be any truth at all dissipates. The motivation to be honest with anybody else dissipates when you don't see everybody else as on the same page of importance. You see some bigger than others, and so not everyone deserves the truth in that worldview. And so if that's the case, it doesn't jive with our society, in that our society is based off the fundamental idea that everybody's equal. Hence the entire diversity campaign right now, which is a shallow read on a deeper of a deeper subject. We talk about spirits because that's the only way we can talk more meaningfully about right and wrong in ways that affect more people meaningfully. Why? Because things like lying, how it should be treated with respect to honesty, what it implies, what kind of value does trust even hold, what value does truth hold, what motivations do humans have on life? These are all questions or concerns that centralize and are illustrated through whatever your view of the value of the human is, or how you value the people that you're treating. So your response to all those previous questions about what value is truth and why is it important to a human's actionable life that truth is what they receive, what motivations do you believe humans have in life, all these worldviews create an outline, it creates a shape of how you view human beings. And that's what we end up judging of whether or not you should be at a high office, because your worldview of human beings should be one such that is great. And we can only see those worldviews not by the particular positions you necessarily take, but rather how you interact and how you react to the human condition. That includes all your interactions, that includes your affirmations onto the world, that includes your will or your intentions for the world. In fact, our whole lives and every person is so created, their consciousness is just this shape of what they view the world as, just like how they describe the world, how they describe a human being, how they describe the differences of the consciousnesses, like every person being conscious but being a different person, how they square that in their head, what their worldview means of the value of some people are more valuable and why. What is the overall goal of human race, of human personal life day to day? What is the responsibility, or what is your goal as a human to create the most peace in your life and your strife in life as life is? All of your views about the human condition and all this stuff that we're just talking about, that's what shapes your personality, because you're not thinking every single decision you make in life, you're not freaking creating a new thought pattern or a new worldview on how you want to approach this next challenge or question, because sometimes the question is just, do I want to open this door or not? Well, it depends what you're doing. Do you need to be sitting here, or do you need to leave? Because if you need to leave, then you should open the door. But if you need to sit here, you should sit here. But why would you do either of those? Well, do you want money? Do you have a job? Okay, do that. Why do you need a job? Well, do you need a house? Okay, well, you gotta live somewhere. So I guess you gotta open that door. And those are all funneled through this worldview that we've been developing since we were a little baby godchild thing, as we sculpted what we wanted to do and what we wanted to do with our limited time on Earth. And so every one of your decisions in life are not made by creating this whole new worldview, but rather you've been cultivating and maturing a worldview throughout your whole life. And every day is your latest and greatest iteration of it that's been working for you. So why do we talk about politics when you think we'd be talking about spirit? Well, because there's really no division. Because if you really believe that everybody's the same, then what's truly happening at the end of the day for anything in the world is always spiritual. It's always spiritual. Even politics. Why? Because it's run by humans, and what is going on in humans? Every single human is going through it's going through the human condition, as in its conditional state of having to deal with its mortality, the fact that it will die, the fact that it has a limited time. So what does it value? What does it find will bring it? What does it want the most in life, that it can reduce the amount of decisions that it must make so that it can just live? As every human body, it just wants to know peace. Why? Because the only thing that's really real when you think about it is pain. That's the only real thing that we can feel. You know, like when you get a stomach ache, you're like, man, this hurts. But when you don't have a stomach ache, you don't feel anything. You just feel at whole. You just feel whole with the body. So wholeness feels kind of like nothingness. Just feels like weightlessness. Feels like allowing the weight of the body to be delivered down the front of the shins. Wholeness feels like letting go, so that your body can just move on its own. Kind of like your body kind of moves on its own sometimes. You know, like when you're just like not paying attention and just let your body drift, or even when it's dancing, it kind of just moves on its own sometimes. So what if all of life could just be like that? That same experience where you're just learning to get better at letting go. Get better at listening to the front of your shins, to let the bottom half of your body do the work of living, and allowing the top half of your body to just simply observe. So don't we all have this human condition of wanting to just feel as balanced as possible, so we can be as authentically at peace as possible, so we can just live life and not have to make one decision? As we know, we never make good decisions because we have this human ego. So if we truly believe that humans are all the same, then what we see as good can coalesce towards something that feels good for everybody, no matter where they came. And so if we see any problems in the world, as much as we want to fight him, the best fight and the only fight that you can do, and it's also great because you can take the pressure off you, it's right here, baby. It's right inside. It's right within reach all the time. And that's like kind of scary, but at the same time, pretty freaking convenient. Because, I mean, no excuses. Just do what's right in front of you. But it's a lot of work, you know. Every individual is obviously a lot of work already. There's nothing to be ashamed of. At all. If you really believe that everybody's just like the same, and everybody's being plagued with the same problems, everybody's just having a hard time feeling weightless in that body, and everything is they're just trying to feel peace. So whatever everyone's doing, they're just trying to find peace. Though it does just create some interesting scenarios. Anyway. Even that toxic ex, even this toxic boyfriend, this toxic girlfriend, this toxic relationship with this government, with this media, with this time that we're in right now. Thank you for joining us here. My name is Herbie. This is Pago1. Hope you remember to listen to the front of your shins. We'll be back to talk tomorrow on the Truth Hurts Day. We'll be more talking about the relationship between the self and the self. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Hope you have a fantastic day. Happy Warfare Wednesday. I hope we have been convincing. And if not, I hope you've had a laugh or a giggle, or I hope you've been feeling well, feeling so good from the inside out. I am looking to add more, I want to add like more references, or like some way to like integrate more of like the body magic tricks, at least more natural, or at least more frequently. Maybe I'll have like a timer or something, but I'm working on it. I really do appreciate you. As usual, please leave a comment if something interests you, or if you just feel like it, or just, you know, blow some steam off. You know, we'll help you through it. This is about feeling so good from the inside out, manifesting the freedom from the inside out. Better. Remember, that's gonna be the next True Love Tuesday topic. We gotta bring it back. But I probably can't feel better than sex. But something's gotta, so you can have that way to self-regulate. All right, we'll see you guys next time. My name is Herbie. This is Pago1. We'll see you guys next time. Please have the best day of your life. Big love.